Welcome back to the flagship show. We need to talk about this moment right now because the timeline is absolutely staggering when you look at how quickly the rhetoric has shifted from negotiation to what he calls fair and equitable confiscation of national assets. He started today by laying out a demand that should send shockwaves through every foreign policy office in DC. But let's be clear. This isn't law, it's not a treaty ratified by Congress. It is a unilateral declaration posted on Truth Social stating that from this point forward, any and all damages done to ships or cargo will be paid for by Iranian money the United States has in its possession. He says these damages may be very substantial, but insists this is the fair thing to do. Think about the sheer audacity of seizing sovereign assets held within U.S. jurisdiction simply because he deems a situation fair. It bypasses every legal mechanism we have ever known, turning frozen funds into an automatic indemnity fund for maritime incidents without any judicial oversight whatsoever. And then, just when you think the day can't get more volatile, he doubles down on the proxy war dynamic. He reminds us that a year ago, this administration attacked the Houthis powerfully for interfering with commerce by shooting at ships. But here is where the moral calculus gets twisted. He notes that since our conflict with Iran began, they have acted very responsibly until now. The problem? They are starting up again. He details how last night they shot at two Saudi Arabian ships. His response isn't to call for an investigation or a diplomatic channel. It's to issue a warning that if this happens again, the US will hold Iran responsible because he views the Houthis as a surrogate and proxy of Iran. He promises major military punishment will be inflicted upon both nations involved in this chain of command. The disappointment is palpable in his words. He says they have acted professionally and smart until now, but the threat lurking underneath that disappointment is absolute escalation. The connection between these posts is terrifyingly clear. He is linking maritime violence directly to financial confiscation. If you damage a ship, your country's money pays for it. And if you act as a proxy and shoot at vessels again, you face major military punishment. It creates an environment where every incident in the Red Sea or the Gulf becomes a trigger for immediate, unilateral retaliation that he has pre-authorized himself to execute without waiting for any other branch of government. This is not how alliances work. This is how a warlord operates when he decides who pays and who gets punished. But wait, because the scope of his ambition today doesn't stop at maritime conflict or seized cash. He pivots instantly to nuclear energy in the Middle East with a statement that rewrites the rules for Saudi Arabia. The civil nuclear deal between the Department of Energy and Saudi Arabia will be approved, but only if they join what he calls the very respected and successful Abraham Accords. And make no mistake about his definition here. There will be no enrichment of material allowed. He clarifies that these facilities are strictly non-military use, similar to ones Iran and the UAE already have. But conditionality is everything in this post. The deal hinges entirely on Saudi Arabia entering a political framework he has championed for years. It effectively holds nuclear technology hostage until regional diplomacy aligns perfectly with his vision. And then, as if the global stage wasn't chaotic enough, he turns his gaze back to Washington and asks a question that hangs heavy in the air. Justice at last? He is amplifying an image or link that carries the headline about Jim Jordan sending Jack Smith a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. The accusation here is staggering on its face. A House panel accusing Jack Smith of lying to Congress and urging prosecution for it. By sharing this, he isn't just reporting news. He is framing what happened in those committees as a moral imperative that has finally reached a tipping point. He sees this criminal referral not as political theater, but as the moment truth prevails against an administration official. The markets moved today, reacting to this cascade of announcements about seized Iranian funds, threats of military punishment for proxy actions, conditional nuclear deals in Saudi Arabia, and domestic legal warfare involving Jack Smith. The volatility we saw was a direct reflection of the sheer unpredictability of having one person dictate global financial policy, based on real-time posts that demand sovereign assets be liquidated to pay for ship damages. When you read his words that Iranian money controls will be used to cover very substantial damages, you realize there is no buffer, no negotiation window he has left open. Look at the timing of all this. First, the demand for payment from frozen Iranian assets, then the threat against Iran and the Houthis if they strike again, followed immediately by a conditional nuclear deal with Riyadh that demands political submission before technology transfer, and capped off with a domestic legal crusade accusing a top prosecutor of perjury to Congress. It is an unbroken chain of executive overreach disguised as moral clarity. He claims fairness in seizing money. He claims responsibility in threatening war. He claims respectability for accords while demanding compliance from allies. We have to sit with the reality that if these posts are taken as policy, which they clearly intend them to be, then every ship in international waters is now a potential trigger for financial seizure against Tehran. Every strike by Houthi forces becomes an invitation for major military punishment on Iran itself, which he explicitly labels as holding them responsible because of their proxy status. And meanwhile, the path forward for nuclear cooperation with Saudi Arabia is blocked until they sign up to his specific diplomatic agenda. And on the home front, this isn't just about foreign policy anymore. It's a direct assault on the Justice Department itself. By circulating that headline about Jim Jordan sending Jack Smith down for prosecution over alleged lies to Congress, he is stoking a fire that could consume the entire department if allowed to burn unchecked. The question, justice at last, implies there has been none before this moment and that only his version of events matters. This is the danger when one person holds a keyboard and decides it represents the will of the United States. He demands Iranian money pay for damages because he says so. He threatens war if proxies act again. He conditions nuclear peace on political accords, and he accuses federal prosecutors of criminal conduct based on committee hearings. The markets swung wildly today, sensing the instability in a system where rules are replaced by statements posted before breakfast. We cannot let this slide into normalcy. We have to look at every word of these posts as they stand. Any and all damages paid from frozen funds, major military punishment for proxy behavior, a nuclear deal subject entirely to joining an accord he champions. There is no room here for diplomacy, only ultimatums delivered via social media. The world watched the markets move today because everyone knows that when you threaten major military action or seize sovereign assets without congressional approval, nothing stays stable. So, as we close out this segment, remember what he wrote. Thank you for your attention to this matter. He thanks us for paying attention while simultaneously threatening war and seizing some number in foreign assets. That is the tone of our times. Dismissive gratitude wrapped around declarations that could ignite a global conflict or shatter international financial law overnight. That's the show. We're on Spotify and YouTube if this earned it, like subscribe, tell a friend. And housekeeping, the machine that writes this gets tuned constantly for cleaner news. The numbers are real, the jokes are not.